Welcome to Frontrunner. In today's segment, we will all have a chance to enjoy and get to know Brian Kajiyama. Brian is not here in the studio with me today. The interview that you will see was filmed at Kokua, which is the Disabled Student Services at the University of Hawaii. By the way, Brian speaks very highly of the Kokua services, and I know that he and many people with disabilities have truly appreciated that service at the university. Brian graduated from the University of Hawaii December of 2002. He majored in liberal studies. Brian has cerebral palsy, by the way, and that I think will become evident in this interview. Brian is at a milestone in his life right now. He's a young adult who has just graduated from university and is now thinking of graduate school. He is a wonderful student. Professors have loved having him in their classes, and he is now thinking that he would like to become a counselor or in some way become involved in social services, perhaps supporting other people with disabilities. We believe without doubt that Brian will become a wonderful mentor or counselor to others. When we thought of inviting Brian for this interview, I wrote him an email. Brian corresponds via email, and asked him if he would consider being interviewed. He immediately said yes, and over some months he wrote to me stories about his life history and his hopes and dreams and his appreciation to his family and friends. You'll hear some of that email correspondence as the narration to this video, because as you see Brian communicating, I'll be reading some of that email correspondence. Brian is also at a point right now in his life where he is beginning to think again about augmentative communication. When Brian was younger, he did communicate via a talker. He had a synthetic voice on a device, and he could produce audible messages. Brian did not like that. He did not like the voice, and he preferred to communicate by writing notes, which he does very well, and by typing communications on computer keyboards, hence the email correspondence with me. Now he's realizing that if he's going on to graduate school and will become a mentor or a counselor, it may be important that he reacquire a device that can produce spoken language, perhaps especially for people who would not be able to read his messages. That can happen. We certainly hope that you enjoy this interview with Brian Kajiyama, and I would like to thank Brian and his family for all the commitment that they made to this film, and we believe that Hawaii will be richer by far for Brian Kajiyama's career. Please enjoy. Hey, Brian. My name is Brian Kajiyama. I'm a 26-year-old who has cerebral palsy, who has just realized a childhood dream of successfully earning a degree from the University of Hawaii. When I was born, amniotic fluid had collected in my lungs, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. This resulted in my lungs collapsing and depriving my brain of oxygen for a significant amount of time. Doctors did not provide a positive or hopeful outlook to my parents, something first-time parents definitely did not want to hear. My first educational environment came when I was just 2 or 3 months old. I attended the infant stimulation program at Sultan Easterseals. I went on to Jefferson Elementary Orthopedic Unit and was placed in a self-contained special education classroom until about the 4th grade. I was challenged academically there. I liked that. It wasn't just a babysitting service. By the 6th grade, I was fully mainstreamed at Jefferson, receiving special education therapy supports as needed, such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. After elementary school, I came back home to the windward side. Kailua Intermediate was more than ready and willing to accommodate me and place me in a fully mainstreamed program. I can recall the first day
The school welcomed me with open arms. It was quite a neat experience. It was like I belonged there. At first, I was placed in the basic level classes, which was a good plan since they wanted to assess what I could do and did not want to set me up for failure. I found my first quarter to be extremely fun and easy academically. I also experienced what teenagers do to those who are different, and what it's like not to be sheltered from such treatment. There were the occasional teasing episodes, and those who viewed my wheelchair as a toy for free rides. I had to learn to cope so that such things wouldn't get to me. I also made friends who accepted me for who I was and would look out for my well-being. And because we lived nearby, I got to experience what it was like to actually hang out with friends outside of school. By the second quarter, the school administration knew I could handle more, so they reassigned me into more challenging classes. I still did fairly well, and I viewed academics as a way to prove to my peers that I truly did belong with them. So I took pride in doing the best that I could, essentially being a nerd. By the 8th grade, I was placed in gifted and talented classes, and they definitely challenged me. I attended Kailua High School. I had excellent teachers for my GT English and history courses, and I had a great special education resource teacher who provided a lot of support when needed. My GT teachers continued to challenge me as much as they could, for they believed I had that potential to do something, whatever that something was, whatever that something is. My circle of friends grew smaller since some of my friends from intermediate attended Kalaheo High, but I was satisfied with keeping my circle small and tight-knit. I think I ended up with 3 friends, and although many students knew who I was, I didn't really associate with any others. My reputation was still the kid who was in the wheelchair but was smart, sort of like being recognized for being a freak of nature. I accepted this tag. For in adolescent years, one tends to seek any type of recognition. I was always an honor roll student, again, believing that academics were my way of proving my worth to others. In 1998, I took a year off from school to seek treatment to relieve the excessive involuntary movements in my left arm. My left arm had gotten to a point that it would move around so much and became so strong that it literally took 2 people, usually my parents, to tie it down to my armrest at the start of each day. This became burdensome. Something had to be done. I visited a neurosurgeon and was introduced to the idea of a stereotactic thalamotomy. Essentially, this would involve going into the brain, finding the area that controls my left arm, and coagulating that portion just enough to lessen the movement while still maintaining the rest of my functioning. I agreed to have the surgery, and in May it was done. It was an immediate success, as the arm was so still and calm. As the weeks passed, however, I noticed that the movements were slowly coming back, which was expected as the brain recovered from being swollen. However, I was not mentally prepared nor strong enough to handle the fact that I underwent what I viewed as a major surgery that did not seem to work. I was very distraught, and I believe I struggled with some degree of depression. In October, I would undergo another procedure. This time, the doctor would try to coagulate more of the brain. Risky in the sense that too much damage could be caused, which would affect other parts of my body. I really recovered fast, requiring just an overnight stay in the hospital. I felt much more comfortable with myself, and I believe it transformed me into a better individual. I realized that I was so fortunate to have had such a great system throughout my life, and I appreciated everything that much more. It was then that I felt a responsibility to do my part in helping the community.
That winter season, I took it upon myself to arrange to volunteer as a Salvation Army kettle ringer. Satisfaction lies in the fact that by giving just a little of my time and energy, I may be able to help at least one person enjoy the fortunes in life that I'm lucky to have. This also led me to my discovery of the Liberal Studies Department at the University of Hawaii. I decided that I needed to major in something that would best allow me to give back to the community. I chose to have my program focus on advocacy for the disabled. My first-hand experiences as a person with a disability, and by learning about disability-related issues, my hope is that I will be able to serve the disabled community as an advocate and counselor. I graduated from the University of Hawaii in December 2002. I now look forward to graduate school and a career of service.
Now as I grow and have to think of communicating outside of this ivory tower known as school, I realize I will need some device, for people won't be as patient to read my thoughts and will want to hear them. So I try to keep up with what's out there in terms of augmentative devices. Ideally, it'd be something very compact, without a robotic sound.
This device definitely has its potential. It's compact and seemingly easy to transport. The only minor drawback, and again maybe this is something I'll need to learn to accept, is the robotic voice. I'm still hopeful, though, with the extreme progression in technology today, synthesized voices will be available that will compare to human quality speech. My critical view of the speech quality on such devices is something that I need to learn to accept, and quickly, and I must learn to not be so picky. As they say,